Hello and welcome to Rose 2024. My name is Mark Wentworth. I'm the founder of Colour for Life and the creator and developer of the Colour PsychoDynamics methodology. Now, for the past 8 years, I've been writing and talking about the energy of the color of the year and how we can use it and navigate the year ahead. And so with that in mind, I'm going to start sharing a PowerPoint with you so I can talk to you and share with you how we can use the rose color for the coming year ahead. So welcome to Rose 2024. It's all about love. And I'm sure you will agree that certainly for the past kind of year or more, it's certainly we could do with more love in the world in general. And it's always interesting for me from about maybe August of the previous year. It's like feeling this gentle breeze, and that gentle breeze is usually hints of the energy of the color of the forthcoming year. So if I look back to August time last year, obviously there was the Barbie film, which you can't get much more pink than that. And if you haven't seen it, I would certainly recommend it because there's a lot of deep, profound messages in the film. And certainly, as some of you know, I work with the Greek goddesses. And if you watch it with the perspective of Greek goddess psychology, all the goddesses are present in that film. And Aphrodite, whose interestingly color is rose, is the lead, is the, in a way, protagonist of the whole film. Her energy is in the background all the time. Anyway, with that in mind, let's continue. Now, just to give you some background information of how we calculate the color of the year is we take the numbers of the year, so 2024, but treat them as single digits and add them all together and come out as the number 8, which in turn comes out as the color rose. Now, the origins of obviously numbers and the power of numbers comes from Pythagoras. Pythagoras is considered the father of numerology. And if you don't know him through numerology, then for sure you know him through his mathematical formulas. Now, what's interesting about Pythagoras is he discovered, almost like as a byproduct, numerology, because his original search was what happens to the soul after death. And through that search, he discovered the power and the energy of numbers. And somewhere along the way, since Pythagoras up until modern times, there was an association and a connection between numbers and colors. Now, after 37 years, I've yet to find one, let's say, starting point for that. There's people who've said, yes, it was me. Yes, it was me. No, I've not found what I call a credible explanation for that. Where I would say, and where I've personally arrived at, is that if, for example, you say number 8, or if you say 8 for a sound machine, those sound waves are going to look very, very different to if you say number 5, for example. And I think it is the sound frequency or the frequency and vibration of the sound which actually has, if you think color is also frequency and vibration, to me, that's where the connection is. That's a personal thing that I've explored and thought about, and that's where I sit with it. Now, as well as using numbers, and also we all have our own life path color. And if you do not yet know your color, you can go to my website, which is colourforlife.com, or you can go to markwentworth.me, and there you will find the section called What Color Are You? And there you can calculate your and find your color with a little bit of information about each one of those colors. Now, in the color psychodynamics methodology, as well as color, we also use archetypes, because it's like to say to someone, yes, your color is rose, or indeed to say the color of the year is rose. I needed something a little bit more as almost like a transition point, as a way of grounding the energy of color, and or to give it more life, hence the term color for life. And archetypes provided that medium for me. Luckily, I trained in 2000 with someone called Roger Woolger, and Roger was, amongst other things, he was a Jungian therapist, psychotherapist, and he taught me so much over 11 years about Jungian psychology and about the energy of archetypes. And an archetype is means an original pattern, as it says here. And from that, it explains actions, behaviors, and like color, archetypes can have a positive and a negative influence on our actions and behaviors. For example, if you took the archetype of the mother archetype means something different to each and every one of us. It is a universal symbol. It has meaning for each and every one of us. Color is the same way. In color psychodynamics, I very much teach the symbolism of color, so that if I show you a color, that color can mean one thing to me, but it could mean something completely different to you. So archetypes and color belong to, as it says, to the collective unconscious, and they are both symbolic in nature. And in color psychodynamics, there are 9 colors and 9 main archetypes, which you can see sitting very happily and excitedly waving at you from in the box below in the screen, all waving their individual gifts and talents that they come with. I love working with kind of archetypes. If you've ever seen the film, and to me, the best way of understanding this is if you've ever seen the film Clash of the Titans, the original one with Laurence Olivier and Maggie Smith, and it's the story of Perseus. And how I describe archetypes, there's one scene in that film which to me sums it up perfectly, which is where Zeus, played by Laurence Olivier, is sitting there playing chess with Maggie Smith, who I think either plays Hera or Demeter. And they're playing a game of chess. And when they move the chess pieces, it has an effect on Perseus and all the human characters below. And that's how I tend to think of archetypes. So that they're like these huge universal forces, and like in another way, deep ocean currents that are flowing and have a profound influence on the more subtle levels, on the surface levels, which is where we might see them in our personal influences and how we get driven. And to me, it's the color archetypes that gives us drives to act and be in a certain way. Now, before we start talking about the color of 2024, and certainly the archetype of 2024, we must talk about the last year's color. And last year's color was violet, and the archetype connected to that was the sovereign. Now, sovereign energy is always about actually being able to stand center stage in our own life and own our heritage, and kind of all the things about we're preparing for the future. In a way, it's heritage and legacy, but truly standing in our own power and showing up in the world as we were born to be. Now, with every archetype, it also has its shadow side. And one of the shadow sides of the sovereign archetype is dictatorship, oppression, authoritarianism. And if we look out into the world at the moment, we can see that playing out very much like how Zeus and Hera in the film were playing out in the world, were moving chess pieces. And of course, it's very easy to then look out into the world and make judgments and say, this is happening here, this is it, and it's always outside of us. Now, one of the invitations of Rose this year and the energy of this year is for self-reflection. And of course, we can look to the shadows and see everything on the outside, but the energy for this year is to look at ourselves too, is to literally hold up a mirror and see where we too maybe have those energies that we see so well and so easily out in the bigger world. And so, kind of the sovereign energy is such a powerful energy that, it's looking to see, well, where is that dictator energy within myself? Maybe it's that I'm absolutely rigid in my belief about something, and there's just no other option or possibility. Maybe I oppress and suppress something within myself, a part of myself. And as you will see, the energy for this year says, everyone's welcome. Let me hear your perspective. Let's look at it let's make everyone welcome around the table. So, as I've said, 2024, the color is rose. And in color therapy, it is if you surround someone with this color, it evokes that sense of gentleness, compassion, connection, kindness, and love. And the key point here is it evokes it and inspires it towards ourselves. It's gentleness, compassion, connection, kindness, and love to ourselves, and then out into the world. Now, when I was doing the research and looking for a rose to really express the energy of the year, I found this particular shade and tone. And this is called French rose. And it has rose as a color is made up of more red and closer to red than it is to pink. It is different to magenta, which has more purple. And this particular shade of rose is called French rose. And if you Google it, you can find the hex colors, the hex codes, etc. But it is considered one of the prettiest pinks in the pink spectrum. Now, talking as someone who works with the symbolism of color, my question when I read that is like, but who said? Because you may be sitting there watching this, looking at that rose, and you go, no, looking at this color, and you go, no, this is not, that does not make me feel any of this. Maybe mine is more of a much paler pink or much more like fuchsia or magenta. And so, like I said to you earlier, color is very personal. It's symbolic. It's what does it mean to you? But I just thought it was really interesting that this specific shade of rose is regarded as the prettiest. I think it's a beautiful shade, but you may not, and that's totally okay. And this is just an example. And when we work with the color of a year, it's very important that you find your version and shade of rose. Google it, look for it, find your version. You may find lots of pinks, and that's absolutely fine. But if that works for you, use that. Now, in the beginning, when I first started working with color, and I had this sense of it, and I wanted to have a strapline that really encompassed what I felt about color. And I came up with this to inspire the infinite power of love. And it was in the beginnings, you start there, you listen to what people are saying and open to suggestions, etc. And people say, well, it doesn't make any sense. It's too vague, it's too broad. And I changed it to uh, a way of living and being, but always knowing that behind that was this one, to inspire the infinite power of love, because I very much believe that color is a language of the soul. I talk about it being as a sign language of the soul. And if it comes from the soul, therefore it's deeply connected to love. And equally, over the years, I remember people saying to me, oh, it's very soft, it's very gentle. I'm not sure I like working with color because it's too soft, too gentle. And I kind of, for a period of time, took it as almost like a criticism and of the work. But what I've learned over 37 years is yes, color is incredibly gentle to work with, but it has what I now term a fierce gentleness about it. And it has sometimes, it is so gentle, it is incredibly painful in its gentleness. And I think when you understand, or when I share more of the color of the year and everything that rose invites us to be and acknowledge, you'll understand how and why I find it, to me, this to inspire the infinite power of love has become more and more so true. It's almost like it's lived its purpose. Now, in color psychodynamics and in color psychodynamics chakra psychology, rose is always connected primarily to the base chakra. Now, the reason for that is because rose has a lot more red, like I said, than pink. It's closer to red than it is to pink. So, first of all, it's connected to the base chakra. And then after the base chakra, it has an effect, and its secondary place is in the heart chakra. Now, the heart chakra is primarily green, but its second color is rose. It's like it's the masculine and feminine of the heart. The heart is the masculine and feminine, but the masculine and feminine principles. And the heart reflexes through to the crown chakra. And in this diagram, what I find interesting is you can actually see Rose's number, the number 8. It creates that, the flow of it creates the symbol of the 8. And interestingly, with an 8, if you turn it on its side, you get to the affinity symbol. And also, what I find really interesting is that the meeting place is always the heart. That is the main place that everything then grounds, and hence the term as above, so below. And the reason I mention this in relation to this rose year is because what I've noticed is more and more, it's become more and more popular, is in the process of manifestation. It has many names. It's manifestation, conscious creation. It's been around for some time, but it's like it's coming to the forefront more and more. You only have to look on TikTok, Instagram, any of social medias. And there's so much written and shared about manifestation. Now, all well and good, it's great, but Rose brings this very, very important question in relation to manifestation. And that is this that you are asking for, is this in alignment, and does it serve a greater sense of humanity? Does it serve something greater than yourself? It's always asking that question, is like, when I want to manifest X, who is asking for it? Is it the ego, or is it part of my soul's purpose, my reason for being? And within that, the manifestation, you might ask, is it in alignment with my soul's purpose? Now, soul's purpose in color psychodynamics, we talk about that everyone is born with an archetypal color pattern. And another way of saying that is like, we're all born with a story. We're all born with a story inside of us. It comes written within us, and it is then our story to live. And through that, we can align ourselves with the manifestation process. You know, what I'm asking for, is it in alignment with who I was born to be? And nowadays, you know, we're told there's so many choices. We're told you can be whatever you want to be, but maybe the poignant question, more important question is, yes, that's fine, but am I being who I was born to be? And that comes through, certainly from my perspective, through your color psychodynamics profile. And then based on your profile, it then helps you to align with your personal manifestation process, because that's in alignment with your one big story that it is for you to live. So it always, when you're doing any manifestation, always check, does this serve greater humanity? Is this beyond me? And then Rose and all that it's connected with will help you to manifest more clearly. Because if these three chakras are out of balance, it's sometimes going to be pretty difficult to actually create and manifest that which you are hoping to manifest. Now, the color of the year is rose, and that is symbolized by the lover archetype. Now, early on, I was talking to you about Barbie and how very much Aphrodite is connected to Rose. And of course, Aphrodite would certainly come under the energy of the lover archetype. And when I'm talking about lover archetype, of course, most people automatically think of, in a way, the romantic sense. But the lover archetype is so much more than that. You know, when we know and when we embrace the lover archetype, and to embrace an archetype fully, is we must know, it's almost like knowing the sweetness of love, but equally knowing the pain of love. And it's learning to hold the tension of those two opposites that allows us to fully embody and get to know the energy of the lover. Now, as you see here, kind of one of the key words is abundance. Abundance is not just in connection with, let's say, finances and money. Yes, it's part of it, but it is so much more than that. It is abundance. Have you ever think back to when you've been in love? You know, those first times of when you've been in love, somehow the world just seems full. And when we're in connection with the lover archetype, everything is just enough. Is not just enough, is not we're wanting more, it's just everything is fully enough. We have enough time, we have enough space, we have enough everything. Even the most challenging of people suddenly seem not so bad. You know, so when we're connected to the lover archetype, it really gives us this sense of, you remember what I was saying, is when we're surrounded by rose, it gives this sense of, ah. And when we're in that space, we always feel there is enough. Now, the next keyword is beauty. And of course, when we think of beauty, we very often think of kind of our physical appearance, but beauty is so much more than that. Beauty is about appreciating maybe where you live. Beauty, it can be about, do you appreciate the beauty of your surroundings? Do you appreciate maybe and see the beauty of when you walk out into nature? And beauty is, in the true sense of the word beauty, it's about acknowledging our own beauty. Beauty is never, true beauty is never about comparison. It's never about comparing me to someone else or feeling less than. As soon as we compare ourselves to someone else, we lose our true connection with self-beauty. And beauty, yes, of course, it can come into vanity, but that's when it starts to go slightly out of balance. And when we're surrounded by, let's say, when we're surrounded and connected with the lover archetype, we are always transformed. And in that process of transformation, we are also creating something new. We become someone new when we are in love, when we're surrounded with love. We're constantly being created new by love. And of course, love, yes, of course, love and the lover archetype. Yep. But equally, or when we're in this energy of love, we're also able to reach out to other people, and we feel connected. We talk about we, us together. Let's do this together. And we have a much more universal view, a worldly view of how we can make the world a better place, the place where we live, the work, whatever we do. We just feel somehow much more deeply connected. And in that space, we have a sense of hope. There is the possibilities of creating something new, transforming something new, because we are doing this together. And yep, it is, love is a tale as old as time. And if you may recognize this image, it is the beginning of the film Beauty and the Beast by Disney, the animation version. And as you know, that I also work with the archetypal color psychology in film. And if we were to look at this film and look at its archetypal influence, then for sure it is a film that is overshadowed or ruled by the lover archetype. Yes, there are other archetypes in the film, but the primary archetype is the lover, because it starts with through a lack of love and a disconnection to love. And it is through the story that both of the main characters, become transformed by love. And what's interesting, it seems that when it comes to love, certainly love stories, we need a bit of drama and action. We need a bit of, will it work? Won't it work? It's something about love, something about our connection with love. I mean, imagine, what about if we retold the story of Romeo and Juliet, and we told it something like this? So, once upon a time, Romeo and Juliet met. They looked at each other and they said, "Oh, I think I love you. Yes, I do. Oh, let's get together." And they both lived happily ever after. The end. I think if we went to see a film like that or we read a book like that, we'd feel hugely cheated, because where's the drama? Where's the sort of fight for love? Where is it? So the lover archetype always, for us as I would say as a species, is we need that aspect. And what I notice is that whenever the color of the year is, if you work with clients, whether it's therapeutically, coaching, in whatever framework, what I notice is during that year, and certainly at the beginning of the color year, it's like these people show up with very often the opposite energy of all that the color of year is about. So already, I have clients who are talking about feeling more lonely than ever. People who feel that they don't belong or they feel disconnect. And maybe they're having problems with money and finances or things. And so all of this I find so interesting. Of course, they're there all the time, but it's almost like they seem to come to the forefront more and more during the archetypal influence of the year. Now, when we talk about love, we also need to talk about relationship. Now, relationship, we always tend to think of relationship, we think about our romantic relationship. Whereas if when you say to someone, oh, do you have a relationship? And if you don't have a partner, you might say, no, I don't have a relationship. But that's only one relationship. The lover invites us, the rose lover invites us to consider relationships across the board. We might consider, what is my relationship to my body? What is my relationship to my home? What is my relationship to my work? What is my relationship to family, to friends? This is the energy of this year, to consider relationship. And as Jung said, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. Now, whilst Jung here is talking about people, I would expand that out and say everything. We're all constantly in relationship to something. Well, we're always in relationship to everything. Now, in shamanism, there's a type of shamanism. Oh, there's two types of shamanism. The first one is very much known more connected to what I call warrior shamanism and the warrior archetype, which is all about soul sort of connecting you with your power animals, soul retrieval. It's about retrieving power and empowering you. All very, very necessary, an aspect very important of the part. But there's another aspect of shamanism which is maybe less known, and that is called the adventurer shaman. Now, the adventurer shaman works in quite a different way. The adventurer shaman sees the conflict and then within themselves aims to balance and harmonize those energies within themselves to bring back harmony within the outside. So they understand and they work with the relationship within themselves. And if you've come across the process of Ho'oponopono by Dr. Hugh Len, he certainly brought that out made that more popular. It's always, from that perspective, it's always about finding that harmony and balance within yourself. Whatever's on the outside, it's finding that energy within yourself. And the image that you see here is how I've, over the years, started working with that and exploring the relationship we have with color. Because I would say that very few people, questionable, have an actual relationship with color. We do things with color, but do we have a relationship with color? And what I mean by that is, let's say, for example, someone says, I hate pink. I detest it. When I hear that, what I almost don't want to say, and what I'm thinking is like, well, have you ever considered that maybe the feeling is mutual? Maybe pink dislikes you as well. As much as you like it, it dislikes you. That then starts a relationship. Because if we come from the place that everything is energy, frequency, vibration, and everything is a living energy, then we must explore and start to understand, and that's the invitational rose, to make more conscious the relationships we have in the world with everything. I mean, for example, I don't know about you, but my relationship with my mobile phone is somewhat. Certainly, if it were a partner, I think sometimes it would have left because it's not always a good relationship, but I do have a relationship with it. And, whether it's with this computer, with anything, we have a relationship to. And that's what I love. And equally, you may have seen and noticed how coming to the fore is much more therapies and work which is connected to working with relationship. Like, for example, I've seen more and more about the system called internal family systems, which is looking at all the different parts within us. And indeed, there's systemic work, constellation work. And of course, there's the work that I'm greatly involved with, which is psychodrama. Um, Psychodrama created by Jacob Moreno. And then, of course, there is dynamic theatre, which myself and Philippe de Mora created back in 2003, which is an integration of psychodrama, um, adventurous shamanism, and Jung's active imagination. And it's working and making visible all of these invisible dynamics that we have within us and connected to us, and exploring how they work. And what I love about dynamic theatre and psychodrama is it gives me the opportunity to step out of my role and look at it from another perspective. And over the years, what they found in the research with certainly with psychodrama is when we role reverse with someone, another person, we step out of our shoes and we step into their shoes and look at things from their perspective. What it does is it lights up the part of and activates the part of the brain which is connected to empathy. And that's one of the, let's say, qualities of Rose. It invites us to be connected. And if we're connected with everything and everyone, we start to have a greater place for empathy and seeing things from someone else's perspective. Now, we must talk about, if we're talking about love and the lover archetype, we must also talk about the shadow side. And one of the shadow sides of the lover is toxic positivity. It's becoming very talked about. It's written about. If you Google it, you'll find lots written about it. And it's not saying that being positive is wrong or bad. No, not at all. This is about toxic positivity is almost like over positive, and everything's going to be fine no matter how, like exactly as you see here in the slides. Good vibes only, happy face, just stay positive. And it doesn't allow any space for anything else that is not positive. And that's what I love about things like dynamic theatre, psychodrama, systemic work, family systems, because they say everyone's welcome at the table. Bring everyone, bring all different parts of you, all the parts that maybe you're not so comfortable with, all are welcome around the table, which totally goes against toxic positivity, which is only do the good stuff, don't acknowledge anything else. And what I love about the quote by Susan Cain is exactly as it says at the bottom of the slide, is whatever you do, don't tell the truth of what it's like to be alive. That's what happens when we wear rose-tinted glasses, because we cannot bear to see the truth. And one of the symbols of, certainly of Aphrodite, who's connected to the lover, is the mirror. Yes, of course, there's the mirror from the vanity perspective, But equally, it's from the when I look in the mirror, it's like seeing my true face. And exactly as it says here, Jung's quote is the world is but a mirror of your own unknown face. And of course, if I'm just wearing rose tinted glasses, everything that is not, I'm sort of putting away in the shadows, gets projected out into the world. And what I find interesting about projection is in order to project, think of when we go to the cinema and we're projecting a film, it needs a light source. And it comes, this light source almost like comes from deep within us, within the psyche. There's a deep light source that then projects all of these shadows out into the world. Maybe we attract more angry people into our lives. Maybe we're attracting people who are always asking for our help. Uh, and yet we can't turn and see maybe where is that within me. Another shadow of the lover archetype, the lover is very much about we, us, let's do this together, is the competitor energy. Competitor is, firstly, there's nothing wrong with being that, having that competitive, when we play sport, when we're playing a game, yeah, we want to win. But we understand too that it's just a game. And yep, okay, I may lose. Oh, I'm a bit disappointed, but maybe I learn from that. The competitor energy is completely different. It's literally as it says, I will win no matter what the cost. I don't care what I have to do, how I'm going to do it, what kind of behavior, what kind of ruthlessness I need to engage in, but I will win. Which goes totally against and is the opposite of the lover energy, which is let's do this together. Together we can win. No, competitor energy is I will win. And underneath competitor energy is it's very often driven by envy, and which is very different from jealousy. Jealousy is like, oh, I wish I had that. It's like, oh, my friend is going on holiday. Oh, I wish I was going. I'm so jealous they're going. Envy is completely different. Envy comes from that place of somehow I feel at a deep level inadequate. So therefore, I will never believe I will have it. So it drives the competitor energy to I will win no matter what, to hide that sense of inadequacy. If you don't reckon, maybe you recognize it in another form. And Jacob Moreno, the creator of psychodrama, he had a wonderful term. It's called creator envy. Creator envy is where the person feels somehow inadequate and something is missing within themselves, and they will see something that someone else is doing, and then they will copy it, and they will become incredibly competitive, you know, and that is driven by this underlying sense of inadequacy. And it's just not a nice energy to be surrounded, which is why I chose this image, because the body language of all three characters just sums up how it is when you're surrounded or in the presence of competitor energy. And of course, the way we can change that is we can draw on Rose's connection and start bringing in that sense of compassion and compassion for ourselves. And as Rumi says, wherever you are, whatever you do, be in love. Turn around and welcome all those different parts of you that, you might say that this year, we know there's lots of talk about Jung and kind of shadow work. There's a lot of people doing shadow work. But maybe this year, more than ever, it's really the time to start addressing our shadows. because all the time they're being projected out in the world. We see dreadful things being done, maybe sometimes in the name of love. And when we turn and we start being compassionate to ourselves, we're able to reach out and be more connected to other people. And part of the, as Brené Brown says, part of the lover's invitation is to be vulnerable. And vulnerability takes a certain amount of courage and bravery. And as you see here, it says the root word of the courage is core. What I find quite amazing or quite interesting is in Portuguese, the word for color is cor. And my book in Portuguese is called Espírito da Cor. So if I translate that exactly, it says spirit of the heart, which is quite interesting considering my original strapline for Colour for Life is to inspire the infinite power of love. Somehow it just doesn't quite leave the building. It's always there. And it takes courage to be brave. It takes courage to. I remember recently listening to something with Brené Brown where she was asking all kinds of people about when we step out to do something new, we're in this place of vulnerability, and it does take risk, uncertainty, and we may fail. So it's an emotional exposure or not. And that takes courage. And so, as she says, be brave. And this is what we can do. This is what we can do in 2024. We can dare to connect where we belong and disconnect from where we don't. Because, again, quoting Brené Brown, as she says, the opposite of belonging is fitting in. And when we fit in, what we're doing is we're disconnecting from the lover energy. We're disconnecting from our story. You know, like I said, is in Colour PsychoDynamics, we're all born with a story. We're born with a story to tell. When we fit in, we very often step out and stop living our story and become overshadowed by other people's stories. So really take time to look, where do I belong? Who are the people and where is my tribe? Find your tribe. Don't settle for just fitting in. You know, sometimes there's that sense of, I mentioned loneliness, but sometimes, there's no lonelier place than being with people who don't get you, you can't connect with. And also, become appreciate and give gratitude for everything you have around you. Recently, I was working with a client, and literally they were kind of saying, well, what have I got to be appreciative of gratitude for? You know, life was not going well. That was being real. And sometimes maybe we have to start with the very, very basics. And so I suggested that maybe just appreciate and be grateful to have woken up that morning, because there are numerous people around the world who didn't. So even if we have to start at the very beginning, it's almost like, thank you, appreciate for waking up, for being here, taking your breath when you wake up, you know. Because when we start to appreciate and connect with gratitude, we kind of kickstart the sense of abundance. Life suddenly feels full as we appreciate and we're grateful for what we do have. And then it's about being kinder to ourselves. Sometimes it's really easy to be kind to other people, but not, and we put ourselves second. You know, we grow up in saying it's almost like selfish to consider yourself first. The lover says, consider yourself first. Then you are much more able to healthily reach out and connect where you belong and help other people belong too. You know, um, equally is to, from my perspective, is develop the relationship you have with your life path color. As I said, if you need to know your color, you can go to my website, which I'll put in the link below, and you can find out your color. And what I mean by continue to develop the relationship, your relationship with your color, think of it like this. It's with you for life. It's been with you because it's based on your date of birth. It's there from the beginning and it's there right the way through to the very end. And there's a story, or there's, I don't know whether it's a quote, a poem. Anyway, it's called Footprints in the Sand. And it goes something along the lines of that there was a person walking along the beach with Jesus, and there was two footprints in the sand, and the person said, how come when I'm in times of difficulty, I only see one set of footprints in the sand? And Jesus replies, because that's when I'm carrying you. And that is an aspect, without taking away anything from that poem, I think that really describes how important I believe our life path color is, because it's with you for life. Sometimes I describe it as like having the bestest friend ever who knows absolutely everything about you and is always there by your side. So develop that relationship, whether you bring in more of that color, work with that color, have a conversation with your color, do more of it because it's with you there. And what next? Now, you may be watching this after the 5th of February or the end of February, but it's fine because these will be repeated at some point. If you're watching before the 5th of February, do check out my website again on the events page, because part of the lover archetype is so connected with our relationship, keyword relationship, to money. And I knew within this hour of this particular webinar, it wouldn't be possible to give the depth and experience of working with or talking about love and money. So on Monday, the 5th of February, I'm going to be offering various webinars throughout the day, different times throughout the day, of exploring this topic. So again, go to my website. You can sign up and register there. And at the end of February, it's the year of love. It's the year of the lover. So myself and 3 friends and colleagues, we've put together this retreat called the Love Code Retreat. And it's in the Algarve in southern part of Portugal. Algarve for me has a very, very special place in my heart, because it was the place where someone said, they invited me to go and work for a week at Quinta da Calma, which is a yoga retreat center. And as I say, I went for a week and ended up staying in Portugal for 15 years. Because if there is a place that I have a strong relationship with, and the lover archetype I find very, very fully, it's certainly in Portugal. Now, the Love Code Retreat is, well, we all have our own kinds of relationship. It's understanding what is your unique archetypal love language. It's understanding from your perspective, what are you looking for? How is that working? What does that show up in the world? How does that show out? Combined with that, I'm working with Roma Clark, who is a crystal therapist, crystal specialist. We're combining color with crystals to empower and strengthen that energy, to amplify it. And along with that, I'm also working with Tori Johnson, who is a color analyst. She works for Color Me Beautiful. And we are putting that together to it's about using the colors that you wear again, to actually help you find what you are actually looking for. And one more bit. Oops, hasn't moved. Yes, there we go. This for me absolutely sums up exactly how I felt all those years ago when I used that quote to inspire, or to use that strapline to inspire the infinite power of love, and why I thought color and love was so connected. And I'll read it to you, which says, color and love are one of the same thing. They exist seemingly separate from each other and yet are intrinsically linked. Both need a medium to be expressed and made visible. Both evoke the strongest feelings, be it disgust and hate, right through to ecstatic ecstasy and connection with the divine. When we consciously bring color and love together, we have the opportunity to create heaven on earth, nothing more and nothing less. And to me, that absolutely encompasses everything that I believe about color and love working together as one, bringing them together as one medium, and how we can use that, certainly more so from this year. So with that, I wish you a very, very happy and loving, kind 2024. And I very much look forward to seeing you again somewhere throughout 2024, either online, in person, and certainly for sure next year when we go into gold, the color of 2025. Okay, thank you very much. Bye-bye.